And then Jacuzzi heard about the rail tracer, and he was like, I gotta stop the rail tracer!
And then he meets the rail tracer.
And he was like, it's the rail tracer! He's real! Because he couldn't help himself.
Yeah,
he's
like,
looking
wow.
at him like he wasn't gonna die.
God.
You know, like one of those
Oh, man.
Oh, you think you're something special, huh?
Oh,
You and your fancy guns and all your men, you think I can't get killed.
Welcome to another segment of He Did Nothing Wrong. Today we will be covering Baccano's Lad Russo.
Yes.
Love that. But just spoiler over this entire segment, because
Yes.
Baccano is one of those shows that I can't even tell you what the premise of the show is without it kind of spoiling the whole thing.
Lad.
Russo.
What an
Oh
interesting
my god.
man.
I love Russo so much. One of my favorite motivations of any character in anything. Oh, he's so good. Well, the beauty of Baccano is everyone's motivations I feel like are really interesting. Like there isn't a very uninteresting character in Baccano, but
I mean, there's some that they're not as interesting as others, but yes, I don't think there's
level-wise there are more interesting characters, but they are all very unique.
And Lad is at like top 5, top 3.
Peak, what is this person doing? And I love it.
And right when you think you understand him, you don't understand
him at all.
Yeah, no, he is very strange,
He's
very psychotic, and...
masochist isn't even the right word.
No. He is like... Being a masochist, you're under him.
Yeah.
No, being a masochist, you are under Lad, because Lad believes he is better than everyone else.
It's not even that he believes he's better.
No, he knows he's better.
Well, it's not even a better than others thing. It's just, he just loves killing.
Yeah.
He just loves murdering people in cold blood so damn much, but particularly, he loves killing people that think that they're not gonna die. So like people that are like very young and healthy and think they're all like hot shots are the people that he goes out of his way to murder in cold blood because he enjoys it so much for some reason.
Because they think that he'll never kill them. And then he goes, but here we go. And then he absolutely just murders them.
And no one is safe. Like women, not safe.
No,
children especially, not safe.
He does murder a child in the show and it's, oh God.
Specifically, he's like, I don't like that look you're giving me. He's like, what are you talking about? This is a really good deal. And he's like, yeah, but you have that look in your eye like you can't die. So guess what?
And then shotguns him
or
in the
even
face.
one of his own men gets absolutely obliterated, like torn to pieces.
And he starts
his whole face and body was hung off the end of the flying
and he just
pussy
starts
foot.
dancing on his body, and he's like, whoa, look, who could have done this?
Then he goes for 2 seconds, he goes, oh my goodness. Insert name here, because that guy was not important. His whole purpose was to die in this series. But
for a fantastic twist.
Yes, later. Yeah. But he just goes, oh God, oh no, and then immediately starts having, he's like, I don't know what happened here, but I want to meet the guy that did it.
But I love his work. Like, look at this mess.
He literally picks up him by the remains of his head and goes, that's our guy. And I'm like, how do you know?
He
knows.
You can't.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
it's so good. The only person that he does not want to kill is his girlfriend / fiance because she wants to die, so therefore he's at the bottom of his list. So his, overarching goal is he wants to kill every single other person so that he can kill her in the entire world, so that it is just him and her, and then he can murder her.
I mean, quote, whenever they romance, it's like, oh yeah, you're so hot. By the way, I could kill you right now.
And she's like, why don't you do it? And then he gets so mad.
Now let's get to the question.
The actual point.
Did he do nothing wrong?
Did he do?
No, he did very much everything wrong.
But why? Because I believe no, considering who is on that train and what everyone's intentions were, minus the actual civilians. The majority of that train was just covered with gang members and crooks and thieves, and just his intentions were very bad, but compared to who was on the train, the black suits, I always forget their name.
I don't even remember.
The black suits.
They always just call them the black suits. I think they work under Huey, but I don't remember if they had a name.
The ratio of if let's say there were 100 people on the train, maybe only 10 of them were completely
uninvolved in the situation.
Uninvolved, were just riding train, and two of the people being the governor and the governor's daughter, who multiple groups and people were after or trying to protect, which is why multiple people on this train, if they die could have potentially died, it didn't matter.
Because they were all kind of bad people in a sense.
Right. Yeah.
But that The intention, though, was it was by pure coincidence that train was just full of like terrible people that you could justify the death of. The original plan was that it was going to be only bystanders and the governor's wife and daughter, and Ladd was going to kidnap them for money as a cover for murdering random civilians because he loves it so much.
But little did they know also Jacuzzi Splat and his gang were on the train for the exact bomb that was being carried over on the Flying Pussyfoot.
Oh yeah,
which
there's a
is
bomb
even
rolled
more
onto
ironic
it.
because the whole reason that they needed this bomb, or not the bomb, needed the governor's wife
For the money,
for the money was because Jacuzzi robbed and
Murdered like
business.
13 entire
speakeasies that, like, the
speakeasies.
Russo family, which is Ladd's like group, like were like peddling through, and they're like
Yes.
going bankrupt
And
because of them.
Jacuzzi did this because he murdered like Russo's.
one of their
He killed
friends.
like one of their friends, and Jacuzzi just went on the crying rampage.
And that's why Jacuzzi's
shot
the
up
greatest
13.
character and everything other. A whole nother
which is
thing.
before we
but,
even watched
yes.
the series, and I saw Jacuzzi, I was like, is he just gonna cry the whole time? And Will looked at me, he's like, don't mess with Jacuzzi.
Don't you
Don't-
dare
yeah.
mess with Jacuzzi.
And then
I'm like, I said,
Yes, he will cry the whole time, and you will love it by the end.
yeah, I'm like, he is probably the most dangerous man in this show.
Which I didn't believe him because the whole time Ladd was on the screen and just maniacally laughing and making his uncle think he was about to kill him. I just went, are you sure about that?
Are you sure
Yes.
about that?
And then when you find out the reason why he is the most dangerous man, oh, you killed one of my friends, I'm going to cry while shooting up 13 speakeasies in one night.
Because, you know,
By himself,
productive.
mind you.
Yes, by himself.
Ah, so good.
Yes, but Ladd overall isn't even the deadliest person on that train, for one.
He's for sure the second deadliest on that train.
I would say
Well,
third.
I'd also say, to be fair,
Tied for second. I would say.
him and
Shawnee, very close.
Shawnee.
Oh, yeah.
very
It never
close.
got established who was like the superior, but he, I feel like, had the leg up for most of it. I feel like he was kind of toying with her for a lot of their fight.
I think, and it's also hard because Shawnee can't say anything.
Also true.
Yes. But
She can't.
an issue with Ladd is that,
She
like,
physically can't.
No, she physically
God, I need to.
I
rewatch
feel
that.
like his character isn't as developed as I want him to be. Because there's not much going on other than I want to murder everyone.
Yeah.
I hate people who they think they can't die. And it's just all around, just chaotic. It's a chaotic thing.
That's like the really interesting part, and also the drawback of like shows like that with large ensembles, where like all the characters kind of need to have like personalities that you can boil down. You know what I mean? To like
Yeah.
a line or two,
Yeah.
because you have to focus on like double-digit main characters at all times, and it's already in an out-of-order storyline. But and then another issue is that of course the show got canceled before like there were like 23 I think light novels of it, and there were 10 episodes in a 3-part OVA. So like
In the
There
end,
you go.
if you also think about it, Ladd would very much not murder everyone on the train unless he, because once the black suits were on there, he's like, all right, forget everyone else, forget the governor's wife and daughter, let's murder these black suits, get the money anyway, and then just be done with this.
Which,
And the black suits were very much like, oh, Hugh Lafray, bomb, Lafray. I always say Lafray.
yeah, we're gonna have to do because we're a little low on time here. So we're gonna have to do a last quick. So Will, do you think that he did anything wrong?
Yeah, see, I'm very split on this. No, but a very shaky no, because he is a gang member, but so was like 50% of everyone else on that train. While he was the most chaotic, he wasn't the deadliest, and you could slip by and like survive him, while other people on that train by comparison were dead set on killing. While he was dead set on killing,
Yeah.
so was he,
Well-
but you can get away, sparingly, you can have a slim chance of getting away from Ladd.
To counteract that, I'm gonna say he absolutely did everything wrong because if you take Shawnee and person 3, who we're not gonna mention because that's gonna just be a huge
whole
spoiler,
other thing.
a whole different thing. We'll have for another discussion.
Yes.
Those 3 are the most dangerous, but Shawnee is very much forced to be there. So, and she's also had to be the person she's been her whole life because of the situation she's in. She didn't do anything wrong because she's just trying to survive. Man 3, he was put through a lot of stuff.
Man
and then,
3 is a whole nother one of these, but he was put through.
Yes, Man 3 is also, but he also has a moral compass. It's very hard to confuse, but once you get
It's
it,
a horrible moral compass, but it is a
a
compass.
horrible one, but one that once you understand it, you go, all right,
Cool.
he's not a terrible person, but that he's a whole separate debate of did he do anything wrong?
He's in his own world.
Vlad Russo was just a garbage human being that I am super interested in, but 100% did everything wrong. Very technically, I will concede the point that I believe in the show, we don't see him do anything because the only people he killed were
criminals.
He killed a black suit.
A couple, actually.
A couple black suits and nobody else. But it is heavily implied
he would have killed.
He killed so many other. I was about to say the old train conductor, but that was one of his lackeys, not him.
Yeah.
No, but then the other train conductor was also with the black suits because
But on that note, this has been Did He Do Anything Wrong? Or is that it? Is that the title?
He did nothing wrong.
He did nothing wrong. Sorry, I'm not on here as much
just
as
different
I should
phrasing.
be. Fair enough. And I forget do it every time. But anyway, Vlad Russo, he sucks, but we love him.
So great.
We love
Amazing.
him. All right.
Toodles.
Hey, have you heard of Animation Nation? No? Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because we're about to take you for a ride. Animation Nation is IUPTV's newest show, dedicated to breaking down, discussing, and sharing anime and cartoons with the entire campus. Some of our best segments include He Did Nothing Wrong, where our crew debates whether a villain's actions were justified or not, Animation Recommendation, where our highly skilled researcher breaks down popular anime series into bite-sized reviews for you to enjoy. Animation Nation's Top 10, a segment that contains our top 10 picks for any topic, from overpowered characters to the most brutal beatdown. And lastly, our Describes You segment, where we tell you how your favorite anime series and character describes your personality.
All right, hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Jake. I don't remember what we called this last time. Anime review, maybe? Just me ranting about something, maybe? I don't really know, but whatever. The good producers of this show want to name it, they could put in some random stuff here. But I'm just going to talk about, compare, and just go off a little bit about Avatar: The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra. So let's go back to the first series, which is Avatar: The Last Airbender, obviously. And the whole focus is that you got Aang, you got his little Avatar squad, Team Avatar, whatever they refer to it as in the show. And his whole thing is obviously, the big plot point is, we're going to stop the Fire Lord from trying to take over the world, make it a pure world of fire, you know, the villain stuff, stop them from being that. But he has to become the Avatar. He didn't get to do all of his training. He had really only known he was the Avatar for a short time before he got upset, got caught in that storm and went into the Avatar state and accidentally froze himself for 100 years. Whoops. Whereas Korra, people always went, oh, it's like, it's not the same. They have to be the same. Why isn't it the same? Well, the difference is Aang had to become. Korra just is the Avatar, had everything, I don't want to say handed to her, because if Aang had not run away and had been able to go through his training, would have been able to do that. Where Korra was able to do everything. You could say, yeah, the first season she is really finishing becoming the Avatar and all that, but it's not the same. So you can't be like, oh, I hate Korra because she's not Aang. Well, obviously she's not Aang. You're two different people for a reason. They might have similar things. Yes, they're both the Avatar, but the type of avatars they are different. And that's why you take wisdom from all the past ones. That's why it's in the show. It's why it's a thing. So next we're going to talk about all the other side characters. And by I say side characters, anyone that's not the Avatar, the main protagonist, and mostly talking about the characters that help them, so everyone that would be considered part of either Team Avatar and some of the extras. Obviously, we always look for character growth, development. It's a very key thing. The original Team Avatar, everyone grows in a different way. Just as Aang is growing up, maturing, and becoming the Avatar, everyone's growing up and becoming the thing that they're meant to be or want to be. Sokka wants to be the best warrior possible. He hates Aang at first. They become really good friends, accepting. He goes from being just, a tactician. He's very smart. The best comedic relief outside of Toph in that show, and Boomy and a couple others, but, a master swordsman. Toph creates metal bending, all that sort of thing. Everything that happens, we love everything they do, and everything that happens to them feels genuine because we could relate to it more because they're teenagers at the same time. Now, if we look at Legend of Korra, yes, they're also younger. It's kind of the same development, and they do grow. They have all the same opportunities as the other, but it's different because it just doesn't feel the same. This is one where I'll actually give a little bit more, The Last Airbender does it better, and
there's difference in who created this, that, the other. But some of the characters just come out as uninteresting. I think the biggest one is Mako is just kind of there, and it's just like, well, I don't actually see a lot of growth outside of him becoming a Republic City officer, or Bolin just kind of does a whole bunch of stuff, and it's all cool, and they do all kind of things, but really it just doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel as genuine. A lot of the side characters, even though we really love them in Avatar, and it's not always focused about Aang, even though he's the main purpose. In Korra, it's like, even then you're just like, all right, I care about Korra. And that's kind of it. And that the old characters that come back in that show, you're like, all right, where are they? I want more of them again. And then all the side characters, you just kind of don't care. So the next point I want to talk about, and I touched a little bit on, are the villains and the main goal of thing. And this is where I think I like Korra a little bit more. So obviously in Avatar, you got the Fire Lord. That's the overarching, this is what we got to beat, who we got to beat, this is how we're going to do it. And you got smaller villains in between. Azula was also one of the main villains. Zuko for a while, and overall different Fire Nation things, but the whole time it's basically Fire Nation. Whereas with Korra, since I don't want to say peace, but they're more or less at a time of peace, at least compared to Avatar. Each of the different villains are unique, and they're actually different, and there's different ways that I'm like, okay, other than like some of it was very random when they brought in Rava and the anti-Avatar, the dark Avatar, all that stuff. It felt like a reach, but at the same point, they explained it enough and it did this where I was like, well, this is interesting. The fact of someone else coming out and could take away bending, just like Aang did. How do you have a bloodbender that connected to energy bending? But all kinds of other stuff where it's like, oh, this is interesting. It's not just, all right, we're going for the Fire Nation, we're doing this or that. It's a different villain with different groups that have different abilities, and it's interesting. All right, now this one, kind of minute, but also kind of a big deal. Bending. So everything that was in Avatar, when it came to bending, we got to see it more or less kind of from the ground up. They explained everything. It was based off, martial arts movements, patterns, this or the other thing. Everyone, the bending styles had their different things. And while other characters can use other movements, they still use their own element. It was cool, it was engaging, there was a lot of detail put into it. And then Korra just kind of went, man, if I just kind of throw my hands like this, the bending's happening. And it wasn't interesting because as they slowly introduced the subtypes, lightning bending, combustion bending, metal bending, so on and so forth, it was interesting. And it was cool because people that were able to do it, they worked hard or they explained how it happened either through trauma, and then they were forced into it, or you're in a, whatever the case is. Then you go to Korra and everyone can just do everything. It's kind of low, and they just didn't put any effort into it. Well, it was still cool because I do think some of the other fights, they're about evenly matched, outside of the final fight with Fire Lord Ozai. Other than that, I think it's just better in Avatar because it's more interesting and you got enthralled with it more. So now, the last 2 points, I'm kind of combining into one, and it's not me a comparison of what's better, what's the other, just kind of giving a little bit of facts. So when you have 3 fully fleshed out seasons of 20 plus episodes, it's easier to take a story point or get from point A to point B and able to, put in the details, do everything right, And that's what Avatar The Last Airbender was. A production team that was committed to what they were doing. Everyone involved loved it. Everyone was full in. It was great. Then you get to Legend of Korra. And here is why I think a lot of hate and not as much love is given, because while it was 4 full seasons, it wasn't, the same amount. It was very rushed. The production team wasn't involved. While it still had some of the core people from before, it was more of a, they wanted to do it. They had things planned out, but Nickelodeon didn't give them the productions. That's why the quality always jumps around unless it's a very important thing. It didn't have as much money as it was supposed to, even to the point where the last full season was put online just on Nickelodeon. If you wanted to watch it, there you go. Go find it, I guess. So it didn't have the same, and especially because if they actually could, I think Korra could have at least been treated as if it was on the same level as Avatar. And I just think it's ridiculous because even when you consider all the things, there's still a lot of good aspects of the show and a lot of different things. And it started to touch on other stuff that I think even for a children's show would have been very interesting going on, the idea of anarchy, chaos is the true intent of the world. But I'm just gonna leave it there. Once again, I don't really know what this segment's called. Anime review, Jake rants about some random stuff. I'm not really sure, but I just want to let you know. Thank you for watching so much, and stay tuned for what comes next. Welcome back to Animation Recommendation. Today we'll be talking about the show with the ruler of all Bone Lords, Overlord. Now I know some of you probably saw this show and thought, oh great, another isekai anime involving a video game and an overpowered protagonist. Well, let me stop you there, sonny boy, because this anime is no SAO. Because this anime has interesting supporting characters, an expansive world, and an actually relatable main character. Side note, I personally have no problem with SAO, I just know a lot of people like to hate on it. Overlord actually started as a light novel rather than a manga that was written by Kogane Maruyami. It currently has 13 volumes out with 10 in English. This eventually led to an anime adaptation that has 3 seasons with 12 episodes each made by Studio Madhouse. This journey to another world begins in the fantasy VR MMO game known as Idrisel Online. A man with the player name of Momonga is hosting one last in-game get-together with his guildmates before the game shuts down permanently. After the only person to show up leaves, Momonga walks around the guild hall, known as the Great Tomb of Nazarick, reminiscing about the good old days and messing with the guild hall NPCs. He decides to stay in the game until it shuts down, but unfortunately for him, it doesn't. He wakes back up to find the game still going and also quite real. He realizes that he can't log out, and the beings that were just NPCs have become very lively. Finding this strange, Momonga does some investigating by instructing some of the NPCs to search the surrounding area and testing out some of his magic to see how/if either of them have changed. After getting word from Sebes, his head servant, that Nazarick is now in a completely different area from where it was in the game, he gathers all of his subordinates, Albedo, Demiurge, Cocytus, Shaltir, Murray, and Aura, to discuss the situation and also see how much they've changed. Still curious about this world he seems to be trapped in, Momonga begins looking at more of the surrounding area of Nazarick when he comes across a village being attacked. Feeling a moral obligation to help, he heads to the village to save it. Once he saves the village, he begins asking questions to get more information. Several things happen during this time. Momonga changes his name to Ainz Ulgon, the name of his former guild. He meets the head warrior of one of the nearby kingdoms, Gazef, and magic users attack the village in an attempt to kill Gazef. Ainz takes his time to continue testing the limits of his abilities. We quickly find out that despite traveling to a new world, Ainz kept every single skill, upgrade, and level from Idrisel, which he was completely overpowered in, and he easily dispatches all of them. Still wanting information, Ainz goes undercover as an adventurer named Momon, with one of his servants, Nabril. He joins an adventuring group and takes a job to escort a famous pharmacist known as Infuria to the village Ainz saved. During the escort, he comes across a legendary creature which he ends up taking as a pet. Once they're done, they head back to town and Ainz splits up from the group. While split, a necromancer and a murderous mercenary named Clementine attack the group and take the pharmacist for a cult ritual to raise an army of the dead. Ainz hunts down Infuria, cutting down dozens of skeletons in the process until he comes across the necromancer and Clementine. He leaves Nabril to take care of the necromancer while he takes care of Clementine. After having his fun, Ainz basically tells Nabril that they're done playing around. So, she gives the necromancer the shock of his life, while Ainz gives Clementine a big bear hug. Meanwhile, Shaltir, Sebes, and one of his servants, Solution, were also sent out to gather information. During this expedition, Shaltir attacks a band of mercenaries led by a man named Brain Unglaus. After shredding through them easily, she confronts a band of adventurers who unfortunately find a way to mind control her and leave her stuck in one position. Ainz, having caught wind of this, goes to investigate and possibly break the spell she is being controlled by. Using one of the strongest spells he has, Ainz attempts to break the mind control, but is shocked when it doesn't work. Knowing that the only thing that could have prevented his spell from working was a world-class spell, which is the strongest type of spell in their world, he quickly leaves and returns to Nazarick. Fearing the worst and feeling an obligation to deal with her, he decides to fight her and prepares several contingencies for this fight. He confronts Shaltir in an exciting battle where we really get to see Ainz use his power. The battle ends in Shaltir's death, which was the only way to break the spell she was under. However, Ainz knew this and prepared to use a resurrection spell on her. With that dealt with, Ainz goes back to business with new conviction to continue gathering information about the world they're in, strengthening Nazarick, and searching for the one who took control of Shalltear. And thus ends Season 1 of Overlord, which leads right into Season 2. This one was surprisingly hard to write, and I think it was mainly because there were so many characters and other nuances in this show. Overlord is a very character-driven show, and it was hard to decide what to go into detail about and what to simply glance over. So many of the characters, while not important now, become key characters in later seasons, such as Gazef and Brain. So I wasn't kidding when I said there are a lot of interesting supporting characters at the beginning. There are a lot of character traits in Ainz alone that I skipped over. For example, you may have noticed that I kept mentioning that Ainz was investigating or looking for information. That's because while Ainz is clearly not a genius, he's not stupid. He realizes that he's been sent to another world, one which he has no clue how it works. So he uses the power and tools he was sent to this world with to not only gather information but also spread his name so anyone else who may have been sent to this world may find him. That's also one of the reasons why he changed his name to Ainz Ulgom. Aside from wanting to honor his former guildmates, since his guild was very well known in Intercell, anyone sent to this new world would be able to find him. Speaking of the world, it's not just a video game that he was sent into. It's a fully functioning world that has many fundamentals based off of Intercell. And since Ainz knew Intercell very well, he had some grasp of the function of the world that he was in. I could keep going, but for the sake of time, I'll have to stop. So I'm Josh, and this has been Animation Recommendation.